Over 14 months, we've remade level 1 of the Toy Story 2 video game in Unreal Engine 5. However, after only 2 more months of work, level 2 went from looking like this to this. Hello everyone, I'm Zachary and I'm a professional technical game designer. You're probably wondering how we made so much progress on level 2, Andy's Neighborhood, when level 1 took us over a year. Well, in this video, I'm going to explain that productivity increased, I'm going to demonstrate some new mechanics we made, and show off some new art. Before we start, I do want to mention this video is sponsored by FlexiSpot, but more on them later. The first thing I did for level 2 was I imported all of the original art assets into Unreal Engine. I actually did this several months ago and it had all the same problems that I faced with level 1, where there were hundreds of repeated materials and the objects were not fused properly. At this point, I spent a single live stream where I added all of the base mechanics I already had in the project to the level. This includes mechanics such as the bounce pads, climbable ropes, swing bars, zip lines, and most collectibles. Because of how flexible these systems were made, they were as simple as dragging and placing them in the level. Before we start level 2, I do want to address the enemies, as they are currently the worst part of the game and makes the project not seem so fleshed out or polished. Currently, when you kill an enemy, they die and that's it. So let's fix that. First, Kyle modeled the enemies into individual pieces, and when an enemy dies, a random group of these pieces spawn. We apply physics to the objects and then apply a light force to them so that they will scatter. This was already cool to have Buzz pushing pieces around, but I then added the enemy respawn. This is done by checking if the enemy is allowed to respawn. Then I can input a numeric value that I want the respawn time to take, where the pieces will then zoom back together and respawn the enemy. I do want to update it so that the pieces start jiggling some before they actually return. Also, before we start thinking about the implications of pushing these toys around, my headcanon is that this is a retelling of the events from the movie from the point of view of Rex, who is an extremely unreliable source. That would explain why there's toxic ooze in the basement when it's really just spilled paint, and why Zerg toys are everywhere attacking Buzz Lightyear. At this point, Kyle also made the car enemy in level 2. His code is fairly similar to the boss in level 1, where if he sees you, he will charge at and past Buzz. I'm actually not done with him though, since he's supposed to also have a patrol state that hasn't been added. The patrol state is easy, but I'll add that when I add all the enemies that belong in level 2. Also, look how nice this level looks. Let's take a closer look. Right after a word from our sponsor, FlexiSpot. I've had this desk chair for about 4 years, and after only 30 minutes, my back is already hurting and I start shifting around a lot. So instead, over the last month, I've been using FlexiSpot's C7 Max desk chair, and it has been a game changer. As a game developer, it is common for me to spend 12 hours a day at my desk, meaning I need a chair that is comfortable and functional. The adjustability of the chair ensures it always fits my comfort and posture needs, particularly with the adjustable backrest and the lumbar support, which is designed to actually focus on the sacrum, which automatically supports both the sacrum and the lumbar. Even the armrest can be easily adjusted to support my arms when typing or gaming. The latex seat cushions with memory foam is soft while supporting seating comfort for 12 hours. Perfect for those late night working on game development. The C7 Max also has an optional footrest that works wonders with the generous reclining in case I ever need to take a short rest. Thanks to the C7 Max chair, I can more easily stay focused on my work rather than discomfort. With a 10-year warranty and a 30-day return-free policy, you can order worry-free. Click the link in the description to check out FlexiSpot's Independence Day sale and use the promo code C750, where I recommend you purchase the C7 Max chair for an additional $50 discount. Now I know this chair is incredibly comfortable, but just don't be taking any naps when you're supposed to be working. Okay? I love you. Okay, so here we are in level 2. And this is what it looks like right now. You can see we have some assets that are finished, some assets that are not. Obviously the lawnmower is not, and neither are the houses, but we've definitely started making progress. We can start by obviously looking at the main foliage, which is this grass. Now the grass isn't interactable, and I would like to look into how to do that. It's just I've never done it before. You can see like around corners and edges, we do typically have longer grass. You can't see through here currently. We don't have an exterior environment to the neighborhood. You can see here we also have these really good looking dirt mounds. I mean, these look phenomenal. Man, I love this little concrete path. It looks so cool. And as we enter the environment, you can see we really start fleshing out the foliage with a lot more vegetation. Around here we have a lot more bushes that are kind of like taking up this area. And then along the fences are longer grass. And over here by the cars, we do have a nice little flower field. While we're over here too, we'll look at this car enemy. You can see like he looks really sharp. Love his design. I'm really happy with how this flower field came out. It kind of surpassed my expectations. This is the trash can from level 1 in the garage. So we did reuse a couple of assets, but we also made a second trash can asset over here. And this is closer to the trash cans that are actually in level 2 in the game, but we added the one from level 1 just to have a little bit more variety, since there is another trash can over there and in the messy yard. We'll first take a look at the messy yard because there's almost nothing that we've updated here except for these cement blocks. Physics-based rendering material on them. The PBR looks phenomenal. Yeah, look at that normal map. That looks great. We also do have this board that you're supposed to push over. I don't have it built into the pushing system where you can knock stuff over, just being able to actually push stuff off objects or in a horizontal path. But you can see here, if you look closely, that it's actually the fencing in this area. So we'll actually come over here. We decided to do a little bit of environmental storytelling. So we have another fence portion over here because these two boards are broken. And there's also a hammer and several nails to show that they are about to actually fix this. So these bushes look really nice over here. It really makes the area look kind of overgrown, much more than in the original. We do have these cement puddles, although they do use the same shader as water. So we do have a task to change that out. One of my favorite new assets is actually these ramps that Kyle made. We decided to go with wood and make it look like it was like homemade. And then he also added all these scratch marks to it, which I think looks phenomenal. Kyle did make this new tire swing, which looks very detailed. The normal map on this is, again, crazy, but it's still done in a stylized way. So it's like a nice middle ground. Kyle also made this swing, which is orange and blue. Our idea is that these would actually swing back and forth, and you would go up a slide on the right, and then you would have to jump between these climbable ropes to each other as it's swinging back and forth. Before we climb the tree, I do want to look at it from a different area. So you can see it's definitely more detailed and more fleshed out than in the original game. We also added some set dressing, so there's some a piece of a branch missing there. We have added our hammer and our saw. Whoa. As well as added the start of some stairs here. All right, now as we climb up the tree, you'll notice the leaves already start getting very dense. Now, in the original tree, you would actually walk on clumps of leaves, and it looked a little crazy. In this one, you walk on the branches, and there's some design cues to show, whoops, I got too close to him. There's some design cues to show kind of direction. For example, we have this scratched up bark areas to show where you can walk a little bit easier. But then also where you're supposed to be jumping to the next tree, you'll notice it doesn't have leaves. And this is going to help. This, along with the coins, will help lead you where you're supposed to go. Now, something we did is we did attach this climbable rope to this falling branch. Now, it's not wrapped around it yet, so it's not completely visually finished. However, it does fall from an exposed branch right there. Again, like this tree is like much easier to climb than the original. And so I'm very happy with how it came out gameplay wise. Now this platform up here is new, but it's not going to be the final platform. This has been kit bashed. What kit bashing is when you take assets that are already pre-made, whether by your team or some other organization or something, and you throw them together to make a new type of assets. All right, I kind of got in an area where you're not supposed to be, but you can see here how the platform is kind of supported by 3 different support beams on the bottom. And here we go. You can see this looks much nicer already. We'll start with the pool. So we made the pool much more defined and much nicer. Really nice tile all in side of the pool. Gives like a nice blue color that's very rich. We have a little bit of color theory in this level actually, where the level is mostly made up of blues, greens, and oranges. Next, we do have these potted plants. Now we have pots that kind of look similar to this as well as dirt. So that was able to kind of be reused with another asset. And then we have these climbable potted trees that you climb up from the original game. Now I love this statue. First off, it's got a nice little like puddle at the top that you can slide around on. But then also look at this. That is so detailed. It looks so good. Great job, Kyle. That's awesome. It just looks so good. You compare that to the original game and it's like night and day. But Kyle did also make this more standard concrete platform, as we call it. Oh, what's up, buddy? Again, there's another pushable plank here. It's actually very similar to these, but it is slightly different. These also look really nice, and I love the design on the side and just how stylized it is. It looks really nice. Now we did add the new flags as swing bars, and we did add American flags currently. To get this working, Kyle made the pole and the flag, but the flag portion uses cloth physics, and then I just had to add a wind component to the area to actually make them blow in the wind. Now this is my favorite model in the entire game. First off, we made a pump that we can ground pound to make it pump up and down. Now you may see that there's like green like dust flying everywhere. That's particle effects from the ground pound, but since Buzz is glowing in the dark, it makes that shine kind of green. Kyle also made this inflatable duck model. What's really cool is as you pump it up with this, it like actually deflates in a realistic kind of way. I didn't even know something like this is possible. Like, it looks so good. You can see that it comes over here to the water and it starts bobbing. The way this inflatable duck works was surprisingly fairly simple, though we expected it to be very difficult to get working. Basically, Kyle made the model and then added a deflate modifier to the mesh in Blender. The deflation modifier was then turned into something called a morph target in Unreal Engine, where 0 is inflated and 1 is deflated. This allowed me in code to smoothly translate the value starting from 1 down to 0 with each ground pound on the pump. And this works so well. We did test several ways of doing this, such as turning the inflation into an animation, but this seems to be the best solution we have found. Also, I did turn the duck inflatable into a ground pound for now, just to get the level up and running, though in the original it uses bouncy water physics. I do plan on adding that behavior to the duck rather than just having a bounce pad though. At this point, I wanted to make the cement trigger mechanic, which I did during a live stream as well. If you want to see some of these live streams or future videos, make sure you subscribe and turn notifications on. For this, I created an invisible trigger that checks when Buzz enters the trigger. I also created an invisible box under the cement that while Buzz is on it, slowly lowers. When Buzz starts moving in a downward direction, whether by falling or in the second portion of a jump, this fake floor will move up to a max height position until it reaches either that max height or just under Buzz's feet. I then made a special movement mode for Buzz, where his gravity is multiplied and jump force is lowered, limiting his jump height and velocity, as well as limiting his max movement speed. Doing all this gives the cement triggers this heavy movement feeling as you move through it. Next, I added being able to jump through the bottom of specific platforms. This feature is very easy, which is one reason it's been in so many platformer games since the 80s. For this level specifically, we wanted to be able to jump through the bottom of these climbable potted trees. I'm going to show this with a basic box just so it is easy to demonstrate. I created this trigger blueprint with some very simple code. When Buzz enters the trigger, I can set an array of objects to activate the collision on. In this example, we have just the box. Then I just place the trigger right above the object I'm walking on. Also, when Buzz leaves the trigger, the collision is turned off on all of the set objects. This allows us to jump through platforms but still walk on them. I can make this more complex as needed, such as instead of using a box for the trigger, I can use an actual mesh shape for the collision to ensure it bends properly around weirdly shaped assets. But again, this is a simple mechanic, so nothing crazy here. Next, there's a mechanic that is in level 2 that has almost no gameplay use, but we're going to add it. That is water physics, and while they are in other levels in the game with actual gameplay utility, The only reason it is here is for players to mess around with and make their own fun, which is a perfectly valid reason to have the pull in the level. I made this feature in a similar way to the cement, where I made another movement mode with its own custom movement variables, again tweaking the gravity, jump force, and Buzz's max speed. However, I then created a custom post-processing volume where the screen gets slightly darker, a vignette is added around the screen, and everything gets slightly more hazy. We also do play an underwater sound effect during this. The next update I want to make for this feature is updating the music and sound effects to sound more hollow, to give underwater segments even more distinction and immersion. I think we should talk about a polishing feature that I made for this project specifically because someone in the Toy Story 2 Discord asked for it, and that is force feedback, more commonly known as controller vibration. This is a feature I've never really messed with a lot, and I was worried it'd be kind of difficult to learn, but it turns out with Unreal Engine it's very easy. Now it can get pretty complex with some very interesting vibration curves, but let's get into that. I created 3 simple feedback assets to start out. First, I added it for when Buzz takes damage, where I create the asset and set it to run for 0.3 seconds before deactivating. The charge laser has a unique vibration effect where it runs non-stop until Buzz releases the button. However, the feedback also pulses rather than being one static vibration value. Then I added feedback to the saw blade in level 1. I chose the saw blade because it should vibrate forever, assuming Buzz is close to it, which was done by adding a force feedback component to the saw blueprint, and then updating some of the values on the right in the details panel, specifically the looping boolean variable. I have a lot of these to add to the game obviously, but this proved that pretty much anything I want can get force feedback added to it. Now, let's go back to level 2 specific task. I started setting up some of the missions in the level. Ham was simple enough as he has the same mission as he does in level 1, as well as the hidden token. And in this level, the hidden token is actually collected by using that inflatable duck. Then I worked on the soldier collectible mission for Sarge. The models Kyle made for the soldiers look great, and we did make them a little larger than their true scale because they can be very easy to miss because of their color. We did mitigate this by having the soldiers shoot a particle effect into the air when you pass nearby them, though having them call out to Buzz with dialogue would help too. I then made the puzzle for the soldier hidden in Andy's yard. It isn't set up the exact same way, but basically the soldier is causing smoke to pile out of different dirt piles. Buzz needs to ground pound the current dirt mounds with the smoke. When he ground pounds enough of the smoking dirt mounds, the soldier will spawn. Returning to Sarge after collecting all 5 of the soldiers will reward the player with the pizza token. By the way, the counter still shows a sheep icon. I have the soldier icon, I just need to set it up to use that different icon for level 2. Jordan, I know you gave me some UI assets to implement that were supposed to be in this update video. Sorry about that. Now that I have missions set up for multiple levels in the game, it's about time we set up a save load system. So first, I recreated the level select menu from the original game. It isn't exactly the same, though it is very similar. The map is currently using the original models, though all of the code base and the camera movement was completely remade. Now that you can select which level you want to load into, it is time to create progression. For the mission system, I'm actually using the narrative plugin created by Rubes. This plugin is a built-in save load for the missions themselves. So that was mostly easy to get working. I just had to name the save file and tell it when to save, load, or delete the save. I did have to create a save load system for the unlocked and currently selected cosmetics, though that was pretty easy as there really isn't that much data tracked with that. With missions now tracking, I could display which tokens have been collected on the level select. I do want to make a detailed breakdown of the mission progress and requirements for each level though. What's cool about this is I can make it track which sheep you've collected in level 1, so you don't need to recollect them if you end up going back to the level without having originally beaten that mission. I did also update the art layout of the main menu some, but mostly I added a new game mode and a continue button. And new game deletes any save file if it exists currently. Obviously we still have a bit of work to do for level 2, but we're probably about 70% done with the art. I'm really excited to get started on the exterior of the level, such as adding more houses to the neighborhood, maybe a small pond, and then the city in the background. Don't forget to click the link in the description to check out FlexiSpot's Independence Day sale for all kinds of great discounts. I recommend you buy the C7 Max chair using the code C750 for an additional $50 discount. I want to give a special appreciation to our Patreon and YouTube members. It really helps with development costs of the project, such as with subscription fees or paying for the server for project collaboration. If you're curious how level 1 plays exactly, I just uploaded a developer commentary playthrough of Andy's house. Anyways, thank y'all so much and y'all take care now.